Morning, happy Friday, and welcome back to the NOFO Live Show, where I, Sunita, along with my co-host Tracy, we hop on every Friday to talk about everything North Fork. Today we are featuring the delicious restaurant called Love Lane Kitchen. It gets its name from Love Lane, the street that it's on, and if you have not been, perhaps today is the best day to go try it out. Because after, I think, a year or maybe 2 years of hiatus because of the pandemic, the first Fridays is back, which I believe is a street, which I guess I would describe as a street fair in Mattituck on Love Lane. It's a tiny, cute little street that they close off for one Friday, a month, I think, in summer. And then all the shops and restaurants stay open late because if you're local, everything closes here very early. So there's a donut shop, there's obviously the Love Lane Kitchen, there's a cheese shop. So hoping the weather holds up, and tonight might be a great day to go visit Love Lane Kitchen. Other than that, the weather report has been great. It's still summer here, or some version of summer, it seems like. Although today the rain. But the fact that it's October and we have beautiful weather just makes me super happy. Good morning, Tracy. How are you? Good morning, Carolyn. How are you?
This is so fun. Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, we've been so looking forward to this, and how perfect that today is the day that first Fridays on Love Lane will come back.
I know. And we didn't even plan for that because we just, you had asked me a little while ago, and the Love Lane First Friday was like a little last minute. Like we got emails from the chamber, like we're doing this, and the merchants on Love Lane were like, oh, okay, cool, So it was last minute, but it's cool.
I'm so glad it's coming back, and I know they're only doing one, I believe, so this would have technically been the last one of the season.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that it's a reminder for next year that it's happening. Get excited, people. So we're ready.
And everyone, it's just a nice little community event, and it's funny how things come together, because I don't know if you guys are big into like goals or kind of
Oh yeah, we're doing we're hosting a vision board workshop in January. Like, we're ready.
This because years ago, me and a couple of people on the street and Dave from Cedar House were like, we should have a block party. And I just wrote lovely block party on like a piece of paper and hung it on the wall in my office. And it was just so interesting how it like worked out to be this like, eventually it turned into like Fridays, and it's just very cool because it's still sitting on my wall.
The power
So you manifested it, yes.
I guess so.
Good morning.
Where are you,
Tracy? I see you're on location, obviously. So tell us
Yes.
where you are before we jump in.
Yes. I am in New York City at Pier 76. We are starting a load-in for the New York City Wine and Food Festival. And I was going to say, Sunita, I don't know if your weather report is the same here, because it's somewhat raining and misty here where we are in the city.
Well, it's great here, but we're holding our breath. I think it may just pass. It'll rain in the day, but I'm hoping it'll be okay for the evening.
Yeah.
When the first Fridays is.
Yes.
Okay. We have so much to talk about. I feel like this should be an hour-long show. So let's start from the very beginning. Welcome, Carolyn. Can you tell everyone who you are and what you do on the North Fork?
I am Carolyn. I own Love Lane Kitchen on Love Lane in Mattituck with a small army of the most amazing crew ever. And we serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're open for breakfast and lunch 7 days a week. And dinner is a little different. Besides First Friday, it gets a little sleepy on that street at night. So in the off season, we do dinner Friday, Saturday, and then on Monday, we have our kind of famous now burger night, which is actually kicking off this Monday again. We pause it for the summer, and then we kind of reinstate it again in the off season, kind of as like a little throw to the locals and all the people that are here year round that support us. So burger night will be back, and that's always really fun. That's on Monday nights.
So your history with Love Lane Kitchen goes back even before you became the owner, correct?
Yeah, I managed there at first. And, it's funny, I actually lived on Love Lane for a little while. What used to be Barker's, which is now the knitting shop, is an apartment upstairs. So before I even worked at Love Lane, I used to go there and get my coffee, and I worked at Pomanock Vineyards. And,
well, that makes me feel like I'm not crazy, Carolyn.
Yeah.
All along I was like, she's owner? I'm like, I thought she was the manager. And then,
Well,
so that
for a little
now that
while,
makes
yeah.
sense. Yes.
And it's
Okay.
fun. Me and Nicole joke around because everyone thinks Nicole's the owner, and I'm like, that's okay.
Because she's
Because they're like, hey,
she's there a
is
lot.
Nicole there? And I'm like, no, not right now. But she's very capable, and we have this like little joke that's like, do you want to talk to the person in charge, which would be me, or do you want to talk to the person who knows what's going on, which would be Nicole?
Right. Right.
And it's like,
So how did
it's
that come
amazing.
to be, Carolyn? How did you come to be the owner?
Yeah, that's it's a great question. I managed for a little while because I wanted to kind of get a new experience in the restaurant industry. I always waited tables. I bussed tables when I was a kid. I paid for my first car, at a restaurant when I worked as a teenager. And I went to school for writing, actually. I wanted to be a food and wine writer. I wanted to be a travel writer. And so I traveled and I did a little bit of writing for some local publications. I started working at Pominock, and that was when I really fell in love with wine. I did some traveling to the West Coast for a little bit, and I got the opportunity to be the wine director at Love Lane Kitchen back in 2009 and to manage. And I was like, well, that'll be a kind of a cool, background sort of experience that I haven't learned yet, kind of in that like more back of the house experience. So I was really excited about what they were doing there. The food was always really great. The team was awesome. I loved the street because I had lived on it.
What year is this?
This was in 2009.
Okay.
So I managed for a while, and then I just fell in love with leading a team of people and just what was happening on the North Fork at the time too. There were just like some really cool businesses opening up, and I got the opportunity to purchase it from the original owner in 2012. So it was 11 years ago now. All the gray hair. Should we get a close up on the gray hair? So it was never actually the plan, but I'm certainly really grateful for what opportunities had shown themselves and being able to then run it from 2012 to now through, thick and thin and in good times and in bad. We've definitely run the gamut, but we're really excited about this past summer. We had a great season, and I'm excited about what's happening in the fall. This is my favorite time of year with harvest. So, there's those seasons that, just resonate with what we do there. And it's as much as there's been so many ups and downs, that's one thing that we've always kind of like come back to, is just that seasonality and what each season has to offer.
And you're open all year.
All year, yeah. Yeah.
And Carolyn, I know that you guys have often had workshops there. I remember seeing like a pasta workshop and all sorts of stuff. So tell us about those activities.
Yeah, I mean, you get like we have this team and we're always kind of brainstorming and thinking of ideas, and you can't do the same thing year after year, season after season. You just always need to be thinking of ways to kind of like delight your customers.
Entertain yourself. Even entertain yourself, not just...
You do. You get bored. And I think that's why we change our menu all the time, because otherwise, but you kind of want to keep it fresh, and you have to always kind of be expanding how you're pulling in money too, because you just can't do the same thing over for 11 years. So we've come up with like meal kits. And the cooking classes, I think is what you're referring to, is something that we came up with. Again, like on the off season when we're all just kind of like, standing around because it's so quiet. We're like, let's do cooking classes. And it was so fun. But, it's funny. It's kind of like the Love Lane First Fridays, where like it fell off after COVID and we never like picked it back up again. Because then you think of other ideas that, work well, or you just kind of move on. And, there's pros and cons to every kind of idea. And some of them work really well, and some of them are just like epic failures. So sometimes you just kind of pick what works. And, we were even thinking this year, since we're kind of quiet for dinner service, or, Friday and Saturdays we do dinner, Monday, like we have some open nights. So we're like, maybe we can do some events, or maybe we could do, like a trivia night. Maggie, the barber right down the street, does a trivia night. She's like, let's do one. I have a staff member on my team who's in a band. I was like, why don't you guys come play? I love to share the space, especially if we're not open. it's just has such a cool feel to it. We've done like watercolor classes and writing workshops, and we've hosted some of the women's networking meetings, which is always such a pleasure because it's like the greatest group ever, which is how I met you guys. And it's so yeah, we haven't done that since before COVID, but who knows? You know what ideas we'll come up with and ways that we can like book the spot.
So I want to know, but I want to hear about the menu because I'm a foodie, and talk about creative and ideas. Green eggs and ham. I mean, green eggs.
Yeah,
Maybe it doesn't have ham. But before I even say that, one of the favorite things I hear from a lot of people is the self-serve coffee bar.
Isn't
That
so
is so like,
funny?
it's so, those
You know,
days are
it's just
so
like
long
learned
gone,
a
and
long
people
time
love
ago
being
that
able to make their
you just
coffee
don't
their
mess with people's
own
coffee.
way.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like a win-win because they can refill it as much as they want and they can make it just the way they want. And I love it too. So it's so funny, those little things, right, that just work. And
So who comes up with the menu? And I know the dinner menu is slightly different from the
yeah,
breakfast and lunch. And
it's like a different restaurant. You know, we have breakfast and lunch, which is super fun. Honestly, it's like a group effort. If someone goes somewhere and they get really inspired by something, they'll come back and be like, we have to try this, you know, or and we kind of put our own spin on it. The seasons, even though I guess that could be like a little cliche sounding because but we're so spoiled on the North Fork with that. You know, I mean, you just have this like bounty at your fingertips. So we kind of like just get to look to see what's in season, and that inspires a lot of our recipes and dishes. And then a lot of it comes from kind of like what's going on in some of our lives. Like if we have someone who is celiac or gluten free, we'll kind of like be like, oh, let's put something, you know, I mean, that's so kind of like been, you know, so common now that it's not like a new thing, but
Yeah, but I remember you guys had gluten-free bread for a while.
Long time.
Well, before it became trendy.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's just nice to have options for everybody, you know? And I like, sometimes it's a lot of like what I might be doing personally. For example, a few years back, I met with Claire Copersino, who's my like amazing yoga instructor from North Fork Yoga Shala. And she helped me just with nutrition, and she met with me once a week and kind of was like, okay, here, let's try to get like, it's hard to stay healthy in a restaurant when you're working a ton of hours and there's French fries everywhere and they're delicious. But, and you know, it can just get a little bit like unbalanced. So she really helped me put things on track. And that was when we made a lot of changes on the menu to like the green eggs, which is kale, avocado, and eggs. That was like for me. Our sweet potato hash, that's like when that was first on the menu, it was a special and it was called the Claire Approved was the name of it.
That's amazing.
And just like look like fresh sweet potatoes made fresh with eggs and some spinach, and we put a little garlic in there, which I think is kind of unexpected. I don't think a lot of people do that for breakfast, but it's really good. You should try it if you don't. So even like, you know, my husband and I really cut back on our like drinking habits, and I put this whole non-alcoholic option on the menu for drinks. So we have like really delicious, low sugar, like brightly colored drinks on the menu that are non-alcoholic, but they're fun, and they're in a pretty glass. And I just like, so a lot of the times it kind of goes through what like our staff's going through or what we're going through, seasons, if we've traveled somewhere. I mean, we pull it from wherever, you know?
I love that. That's great. And I love that you have the mocktail options because I feel like the pretty glass and the, you know, so that you feel like you're part of the party.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in especially like in this world, which I love so much, sharing meals and preparing things for people and welcoming someone into Loveland Kitchen and just greeting them with a smile. And it's like, you know, the more people we can include in that, I feel like the more we all benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it can be hard if for whatever reason you're not imbibing or you're trying to watch your intake or you're gluten-free or you have allergies. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why people might not want to go out. And instead of saying no, and missing out on that social opportunity, which I think got so strained over the last few years.
Yeah.
I'm just like, how can we just include, how can we be as inclusive as we can? Because this community is like amazing. So you want to like come hang out with us, come
I think
meet your friends, celebrate.
you should add a babysitting service, and then you could really be inclusive of everybody.
You know what? It's so funny that you said that, because one of our full-time servers, Kat, who you guys probably know, she just had a baby, and I'm like, who knows? Because when we move things around for our team, like, who knows? Maybe we will.
Yes.
Have someone stand by the self-serve coffee that pushes the stroller back and forth,
Yeah.
The baby.
Just put a little playpen in the kitchen. There'll be plenty of them to watch.
Exactly. Well, with the whole Montessori thing of including them, we'll just have like a little tiny prep kitchen for toddlers.
Okay, so obviously you've been a business owner and an entrepreneur for so many years, but you also, using your strengths, have a business or a service that you offer that helps coach other business owners and how to succeed. So I want to hear a little bit more about that, because there's so many local business owners that watch our podcast, and I'm sure they want to learn tips from you.
Yeah, that kind of happened by accident. My sister and I both lead teams. She's more in the corporate world, which is really very interesting, because if you can kind of pull some of the things that work in corporate into a small business, you can have like a pretty mean combination. But there's so much heart in it, and it doesn't even need to be necessarily a small business, but really independent, because some of these businesses out here are independent, but they're not small, And so realized that a lot of people were just coming to us for advice and how to lead a team and how to balance everything, which I don't necessarily have like an answer for, but and they have dreams, they have really good ideas, and they have services to offer people, and it's their passions, and they know something is there. And I really just believe that everyone has that potential. And some people really have the drive, and they just don't know maybe how to just like take that first step or make that connection or have that faith that they should try it, And so my sister and I, Fran, realized that a lot of the times people just need like an action plan, and we kind of just meet with you. We lay it all down. Like, what do you got? What do you want to do? What would be the best case scenario? Just ask those kinds of questions. And once you start to kind of strip away like the fear and the what ifs and all the things that can go wrong, and you just put together that first step or that first phone call or that first inquiry, you realize that it's actually, this is doable. My dream actually my store, my shop, my service actually really might be not only doable, but needed. Like, you might really be able to change people's lives. And that's been a joy, because I think it's just a matter of just getting people organized.
Yeah.
And
I think
we do, and that's what we do.
You're also like a sounding board, given your background, in terms of letting the person who's trying to explore the business have some clarity on what their focus should be. Strip away all the 50 ideas or 50,000 ideas everybody has, and drill down into what will work, and then you help them sort of implement it.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself.
I like that your sister Fran is bringing the corporate side of it, because as a small business owner myself, I've been in business for almost 18 years. And when I started my business, I approached it as if, pretend it's 18 years from now and that you are an established, large company. How would you want your business to be run? So I set up my company, even though I was the only employee, as if I had 50 employees. And I set myself up for being able to grow as the company grows. And I think that's really important to have that sort of corporate mindset structure when you're setting up an independent business, because then you don't have those growing pains as you begin to grow.
Yeah. And, it's so funny, because each business is so individual, but there's also so many of the same, it's so many of the same problems, the same questions that need to be answered. And so there is a little bit of I don't want to say formula, because that's not really the right word, but there's certain
key elements
that you need to check off. So you can start there, and then people feel like, wow, this is really coming into fruition. And it's really cool to watch, because they've had it in them all along. They just needed to like know what to do first, and it's cool.
Okay, and then that, I guess, in some way led you to this podcast that you have, because it is related, right, to businesses and sharing.
It is, yeah.
So I want to hear about this.
I know, it's so funny. Oh, it's like there's so many things, but the podcast is a blast, though. You guys know. I mean, how fun is it? It's the best,
to us, it's fun. I mean, we love doing this.
You just have the greatest conversations, And so when people would come in and they'd make their coffee, and I'd be like chatting with them. It would be business owners and, customers, of course, too. But we just have the greatest chats, with my neighbors and fellow business owners. And I always kind of wanted to start a podcast. And one day, randomly, Cody had texted me from Bronze to say, listen, I was thinking about starting a podcast. You're on the first on my list. What do you think? And I was like, God, I was thinking about that, too. And he was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm like, I don't know where to start either, but like, I don't know, you want to do it together? And it was just a very like kind of serendipitous thing. And it's been really good fun because I think it's an important conversation to have. And I think now more than ever, I think it's crucial to kind of pull back that curtain a little bit to anyone.
So it's a podcast with a deep dive on how a business is survived.
Sorry, I should have started. Called For the Love of Business. And it's about, we interview small business owners on the North and South Fork. And it's just that conversation about like the wins, the losses, the failures, the struggles. And it's quite positive. It's not necessarily just like complaining. It's, I think it's a really useful conversation, especially for business owners to hear. You're not alone.
Well, I feel like everybody on the North Fork is an entrepreneur. I shouldn't say everybody, but a large percentage, because there are no national chains here.
Right.
So everybody runs some sort of a business. And I think so much can be learned from just conversations.
I think so too.
Whether it's encouraging to go in that direction, or it's like, nope, that's been tried. Don't do that. Maybe pivot and try this, I
mean, just even people's stories are really entertaining, like how they started, and the personalities are just great, so even that alone has been really fun. But then I think some of the little like lessons and truths that people have come up with are like, man, they're really valuable to everyone who's listening, I hope. But I really think it's kind of meant to be kind of like a little look into what it takes, to really run a business you love and to do things with integrity and with passion, because so many business owners that's how they operate out here. And I think that's another thing that makes it so special, is because, you've got just like some really badass, motivated, passionate people doing what they love. And it's not necessarily just because you love it and it means a lot to you, doesn't necessarily mean it's like this easy thing. You just bounce out of bed every morning and do it. It has its challenges. So I like highlighting that.
Yeah. Well, so Carolyn, we usually end our show with the NOFO Live 5, all right? Yes. So we're going to head into that. So aside from the obvious, if you were to take us out to lunch or dinner, where would you take us?
Can I say like just my house? Come over.
Sure.
And, like,
yes.
Well, you can only wait. You can only say it if it can actually happen.
Yes, definitely. Oh my God, come on over. We love to grill and cook. I mean, after like a day of being in a busy restaurant, I just love like, we get again so spoiled. I love to go to a farm stand and pick up some like local stuff, and we just throw it on the grill, make a big salad, and we're just like so spoiled.
Okay. So Tracy, you're taking the photos, or I'm taking the photos? But photo of this meal.
Come over. I'm like,
well, and I'm going to go out of order in our questions, because you just led me right into the farm stand question of when you're cooking at home, what farm stands do you generally hit up?
So I live in Laurel, and I love to go to Woolwhack right on the side of the road, because their stuff's amazing. And I also love to go to Schmidt's. They have some really beautiful produce and delicious lettuces, and they have, it's just like it's like my happy place. Sometimes I ride my bike and I load up my basket, and I just feel so like, I'm like, is this my life? This is amazing.
Yeah, that's a picture. That's a picture right there.
And just like, I just feel like I'm like, in my happy place when I get to shop at a farm stand and come home and cook something from there.
I love that.
Totally, totally. Okay, brewery or vineyard? What would be where would I find you?
Well, if it was a few years ago, I would definitely say vineyard, but now I might grab a beer very, very far and few between, but my absolute favorite is North Fork Brewing Company for sure. Their beers are like so inventive and fun and crisp and clean, and they're my favorite for sure.
They're great. They've been on the show. They actually they sponsored our party last year.
Oh, cool. Oh, they're awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Sunrise or sunset when you're not at the restaurant, or when you're at the restaurant?
Yeah, I would say sunset. My husband and I, we haven't been out too much, but we have a little sailboat, which is like the best place to catch a sunset for sure. That and Breakwater Beach. My husband plays volleyball down there over the summer, and man, that's another time where I'm just standing there hanging with some friends, watching the sunset. Like, is this really our backyard? It's amazing. It's so beautiful down there.
Yeah, I know. Well, and then that leads perfectly into our final question of why do you love being part of the North Fork community?
Oh, that's like would take like another while to answer, but I mean, it's always the people for sure. I think we're really lucky, even like our customers and our clientele, and just the general like vibe of the area with people doing what they love. I find it really exceptional and special. And, you know, I don't know if people feel like that about like their home, like where they live, but there's so much to be grateful for but probably if I were to like pick one, it'd definitely be the people for sure.
But it is really, truly, I mean, we live in such a special, special place that you have to come and be a part of it to understand why it's so special, because it just so many moments where you pinch yourself and go, is this where I live? This is amazing.
Yeah. And I've gotten a little bit better at like really taking advantage of it, you know, because you know, you can get really like nose down working really hard, and especially when things get a little stressful, you really start to focus, which is fine, but it's really important to take your head up every once in a while and like just, you know, like you said, go like grab a sunset or go for a walk and run to your farm stand and make yourself a sandwich.
Well, honestly, that 5 minutes that I take out at sunset has really done that for me, because I lived in New Jersey for 26 years, and now I always often joke, I don't know if the sun ever set in New Jersey. Because I was because I have 3 kids there, I was raising kids. Yeah. Making dinners, making lunch boxes. I don't know what I was doing. But here, when you're surrounded, I took the ferry yesterday or the day before. Oh, so just cool. That 30 seconds of the Shelter Island ferry, just watching the osprey nest and the coast and the water. It's the same feeling of pitching yourself. Do I really live here?
Yeah.
So even though we asked the question, Tracy, at the very end of the show, I feel like the entire 30 minutes of the show, everybody answering what they love about the North Fork.
Yeah.
It's like we're all drinking some crazy Kool-Aid, and we are so fun being here. But
totally agree.
We're very fortunate for sure. I'm really
Before we end, somebody just asked the question. The Love Lane Fridays it's on tonight, right? Even with the rain.
Yeah, I mean they'll probably let us know. I guess. I mean it's moving forward unless I think things get really bad. So
okay,
if it's pouring, I'm sure it'll get canceled. But if it's just kind of overcast, I'm sure we'll keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
No, so it'll be fun. I know. Fingers crossed. So
thank you for being on. Thank you so
much for having me. This is so fun.
Meal.
Yeah, come by, listen to the podcast. It's Love and Kitchen, for the Love of Business podcast, and then my consulting with my sister is Hospitality Within.
Well, thank you so much, Carolyn. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
It was so fun. Thank you so much.
Enjoy your Friday. We'll see you guys next week.
We'll see you later.
Happy Friday.
Bye.